right. So thank you for joining our call today. We're going to be going over UKG Ready, our new HRIS system, and we will be going live in UKG as of Saturday, December 16th. It is a Saturday because that is the start of a new pay period, but essentially everything beginning the 16th and moving forward will be in UKG. So we will be waving farewell to Synchrony and migrating over to UKG Ready. And so by now, most of you should have already received an email, a welcome email from UKG. It'll include instructions on how to access UKG Ready, how to log in, and then you'll be greeted with a checklist, which essentially is going to have some requirements in there just for you to complete. I think it's like 4 major steps that you go through, but it should take you like 5 minutes to go through. You're going to be updating some information and then just validating that anything that we've transferred over from Synchrony is correct and accurate. And then, of course, you have the ability to make any changes that you need to. So take some time to go through that. If you've already done so, that's perfect. Thank you for doing that. But if not, certainly feel free to do that after the call or just by the end of the week. And as always, if you have questions, let us know. So we're just going to quickly walk through this agenda just to give you an overview of what we're going to cover today. And then we will get started. So again, I mentioned the welcome email from UKG. We'll go over any type of login information, questions that you may have. We'll also talk a little bit about password resets because that is going to change when we move to UKG. It is a new feature where not only employees can reset their own passwords, but managers can reset their team's passwords, which is super cool. And we'll talk about that. Go over how to navigate UKG. So just from a general standpoint, navigating the dashboard, so what you see when you log in, your notification bell, which will include my to-do items, my notifications, and my checklists. We'll jump into time and attendance and spend some time. We know that, generally speaking, time and attendance is one of the biggest areas that most of our folks will be using UKG. So we do want to make sure that you're comfortable with how to not only enter any time for yourselves if you have it, but managing your folks' time. So entering time, clocking in and out. We'll talk about how to add in any missing punches and how to approve those. Adding notes, changing departments, or as UKG refers to them, sometimes as cost centers. So you may see those terms interchangeably. They're the same thing. We'll talk about any other change requests. And then we have a new process for how to add supplemental earnings, which we'll go over. And then we'll talk a little bit about the calc summary. Essentially, it's a summary of your people's time for the pay period. And then we'll talk about managing time off. So this will include entering any time off requests into UKG. And as we've told all the other groups so far, we want to make it known that any time off request that you have already entered into Synchrony, even if it's been approved and submitted and all of that, we want to make sure that those times are going to be moved over into UKG. And then again, as a reminder, any time off requests as of 12/16 going forward are going to be in UKG. So nothing new to add to Synchrony. And we'll talk about the approvals workflow. So when your folks have time off requests, what you need to do to approve that. Later on, I know it's not on the agenda, but later on, we're going to be hosting some periodical meetings similar to these, but we'll cover new topics. And one of the topics to focus on will be delegation. So, delegating workflows and tasks to other managers in the event of your absence. Down here, we'll talk about those accrual balances. So as I mentioned, it's really important that we want to have all employees, use this time as an exercise to begin moving requests over from Synchrony into UKG. And again, even if it's already been submitted and approved. So HR, we will import any current balances from Synchrony over into UKG, right? And I know it says it before, but we'll move them after go live. So we go live the 16th and we'll be moving balances and doing some cleanup on the 18th. And that way we can ensure that everyone's balances are clean, clear, and under control. I know that's probably trademarked, but we will make sure that that's correct. So other items, just a few other items to take home are validating personal information. So again, I mentioned the checklist. We'll go through this, but again, it's just a good opportunity to ensure that your personal information is correct. There's always room for error, which, you know, it is what it is, but we just want to make sure that whatever's in there that we took from Synchrony is correct. So it's a good chance to update your W-4 withholding and tax filing statuses, your direct deposit, your mailing address, if you've moved since then, if you've got, I know we just got done talking about getting new phones. So if you happen to got, you know, if you've gotten a new phone number, you can update that, as well as we do want everyone to enter a personal email address. I know we have quite a few already in Synchrony, but we noticed that some folks don't quite have a personal email address in there yet. So now's a good chance to add that. We'll show you how you can view your pay statements. We'll talk briefly about tax documents. And again, that's just a topic for another training because we won't have access to those actually until 2025, which I know sounds like science fiction, but it will be here. So we'll talk a little bit how to update your W-4 withholding and tax filing status, and then also how to upload any certifications either on your behalf of your folks' behalf. Last but not least, we did touch a little bit on already the app. So we do want to promote downloading the app, which is a mobile app for UKG Ready, and you can download that from your app store. And if you do download the app in time for the Q4 all-employee holiday event, you can just stop by and show someone from HR, and you'll be entered into a drawing for select UKG swag. So we do have some giveaways. Just make sure that that app is downloaded. And, you know, if we're having some hiccups getting in, like logging in, don't worry about that in terms of this. We'll just make sure that the app is downloaded, and then we'll work through some kinks as it relates to logging in. But certainly just make some time to do that. And just before we actually get started, does anyone have any questions or anything they just want to ask or go over? Okay, let me just switch my page real quick.
Hey, Garrett.
Yep,
Sorry.
go ahead. That's okay.
Hey, so you said that all of the PTO requests for after the 16th will automatically be transferred over, or they need to be entered on the 18th?
So any time off requests that are already in Synchrony, so like let's just say you were taking the first week of December off, and it would likely already have been entered into Synchrony. So moving that time into UKG. So it's essentially, it is dual work, but it's just a good exercise to not only get comfortable with how to request time off, but it helps us as we're doing the import, because the more we can have everyone take care of their own requests, the quicker the cleanup will take for us. And then of course, moving forward, as of 12/16, you won't even have the option to enter anything into Synchrony, just because at that point we will have ended our contract and we'll be fully in UKG. Does that help you?
I think so. I'm just thinking, so if I have someone who has the 27th of December off, just for example, I need to make sure that I enter that into UKG.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. And if it's not entered, that makes sense, because anything beyond 12/16 will be into UKG. But if it's already been entered into Synchrony, you can leave it in Synchrony. Just make sure it gets added to UKG.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Good question though. Anything else on that note?
I don't think so.
Okay.
For future time off requests post the 16th, we should be doing them in this system, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
okay.
Because as of the 16th, we won't even have access to Synchrony. Okay. So we will have we as HR have a grace period, but it's very limited access. But I think just as a standard, we just want to make sure that everything is in UKG as of the 15th. That way you can ensure to go back if you need to do a second look, because as of the 16th, we won't have access to Synchrony.
Okay.
And then on the 18th, we'll be doing a balance cleanup. just because you'll see when we get in here, like if you've had a chance to navigate on your own, you've probably seen your accrual balances, and many of you may be either 0 or negative. And that's just because we haven't yet had the chance to go through and do the cleanup. But what we want to do is have everyone import anything over, and then we'll do the cleanup and look at balances. So, okay. So I'm going to just move myself up to the top, and hopefully, can you guys all see this test manager screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be sure. So this is what your dashboard will look like. So right when you log into UKG, this is what you'll see every time you log in. So your dashboard, you know, just like with any platform, really is kind of your home base. Excuse me. And you'll see here, there's a number of icons across the top. These are just kind of quick, easy access points for you to get to some of the most commonly used things in UKG. So just coming from right, or sorry, do I know my directions? Left to right. We'll have this tab called My Employees. And you can see that you can view employee information. This is where you'll access that employee reset password. So super quick and easy. You can just do that on their behalf. If by chance your employee has locked themselves out, so if they've had too many attempts to log in, they've locked their account, you can unlock it for them. So that's a nice new tool. Next over, we have My Timekeeping. So this is going to be where you'll manage your folks' time. So you can see here, we've got a couple things that you can choose from. Any timesheets with pending approvals, current timesheets, timesheets by pay period. So if you wanted to go back or forward, you could. And then you can view time off requests pending approval, and then just all time off requests. Reports is here, but it is not fully set up. And we will go over this topic in more detail at a later time. But if you want to, you can kind of take a look around, and it will just show you some examples of reports. But again, we'll cover that at a later time. My information, and again, anything with the word my in front of it, other than I guess these two, which doesn't help, but basically my information, my pay, my time, my benefits, my company, these are all related to you. So this is your profile, updating your information, your password, your to-do items, and your workflow delegations. The same goes for pay. You can view direct deposit, you can change your direct deposit or update it. You can update tax withholding and other tax information. And then of course I mentioned the tax forms, which you'll have access to in 2025. And then My Time, again, where you can view your own timesheet, your own time off requests, and your accruals. Now the benefits portal or module within UKG will be set up by the time we go live. And certainly if not by then, it'll be set up by 1/1. But this is in here, it's just not fully set up. So if you see absolutely nothing in here, that's perfectly normal. That's just because we don't have it set up yet, but it will be. And then My Company will just show you have access to documents and announcements. And so you can always access these items, of course, right here with these 8 icons. But if you go over to the upper left-hand corner, you'll see this kind of hamburger icon menu. If you click that, you'll be greeted with 2 tabs. So it's going to default to team, and the team is essentially just that. So it's anything related to your team as a manager. So you can view your team members, employee information. You can view timesheets, time off. You can view accruals. We won't be using schedules. And then HR here, you can view different things like in the reports section. You can view, and I'll show you something kind of cool in just a second. And then there's learning, there's some skills that you can go to here. So anything that you see here, you can access. Now, if you click on My Info on the left, this is all of your stuff. So this is your info, time, schedule, benefits, HR. As we continue to work through the setup of UKG, My Career will be set up, and Jen's heading that. So that will be set up for more like internal applications, those types of things. my pay, my company, my reports, and then if you need help, you can access it down here. So any questions on just those items so far? Okay. And these are just little tabs that you can access the same thing. So like here, if I go to team, you can view different things as it relates to your team. The same thing here. Your employee list will show up. Time will show you attendance, exceptions, time summary, different metrics. And we will not be using schedules. If at any time you wish to go back home to the dashboard, you can always access it. If you just click your left arrows enough times, you can go back. Or this, our company icon or logo, you can just click that, even though it doesn't have the little hand that kind of signifies that it's a link. It actually does link you back to the dashboard. And then I can just click home and I'm back home. So down below here, you're going to see just a couple different widgets that we've just installed on your dashboard. So easy access to your mailbox. It'll show your My To-Do items and any notifications. This clock is really important for your employees. So I do have this manager view pulled up here, but if I just go over to our test employee, this is what your folks will see. So you can see they don't have as many icons as you do. They just have enough for themselves. So essentially this is their view. But if I go down to the clock, you can see that they have a little bit more because they're going to be clocking in and out since they're hourly. So this is how they'll punch in, punch out. They can change their cost center and they can always view their timesheet. So that's going to be really important. Of course, you're just going to be tracking, since you're salaried or exempt, you're just going to be tracking exception time. So in this instance, you will no longer need to approve your timesheet if it's just a flat 80 hours worked. There's no more approving that. So you're really only going to be requesting PTO and just making sure that's approved for your timesheet. But this is where you can view account accrual balances, make those requests, and then your balances will populate down here. Again, if you don't see anything or if you see negatives, perfectly normal. Going to move down to my schedule. And so this is just a really good kind of an optics for you, just so you can see from a calendar perspective. You know, we've already got Veterans Day populated for the 10th. We've got Thanksgiving Day and day after Thanksgiving. So that's what those little kind of purple pink flags will signify. And then if you ever see, like, let me just go to our employee because we've already entered some sample time. If I go down and I see this bar right here, this is going to show me that I have time off. And if you click it, you can just view the details. So the calendar view, I think, is pretty cool because it just visually shows you, you know, if you're scheduling or so on, you know, you can see your folks and what time they're taking off and if there's any holidays. And then again, over here, my benefits, that'll be populated hopefully by go live. And again, if not, by 1/1. And it's not really going to impact anything because benefits were all done through Employee Navigator. This is just a transfer of data. And then my pay will be down here. So once we start having payrolls, your pay stubs will be down here, your total pay, all of that will be listed. And if you see this little arrow on the bottom right, that's just going to take you back to the top of the page. So it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of the page or at the very bottom, just click it and it'll jump you right back up to the top. Some other cool features I think that you should know are that this search bar up here. So let's just say you want to access your tax withholding and you don't know where to go. So if you just want to type in withholding, you're going to see a couple options. So there's on the menu tab and the reports tab. So if you wanted to click this top one, it's going to lead you, it'll show you the path. So my HR forms and government forms, and you can always kind of follow that path going over here, my info, my HR. I'm sorry, what was that path? Okay, my HR forms and government, yeah. And government forms, and then view withholding. So it shows you the path, but if you just type it in and click it, it'll take you right to it. So it's kind of neat. If you want to get somewhere and don't know exactly where it's buried in, it's just use that search bar. Another kind of cool thing that UKG is implementing is birthdays. So this will show you all of your team's birthdays, and it will send you a notification on their day, which I think is really nifty, because that way, we can congratulate them, or we can, tell them happy birthday, whatever the case may be. Birthday calendar by month. And we can show that our test hourly employee is on the 16th. So kind of neat. I like it. Any questions on just the dashboard view? Okay. I want to show you this cool little notification bell at the top right. Of course, we have 37 items, but here is where you can view all of your to-do items. So as a manager, you're going to have approvals come your way as part of a workflow process. And so all of those items will just be neatly listed here under my to-do. And we'll talk about this in a little bit further detail, but this is just where you can access those to-do items. So if you're approving timesheets, if you're approving time off, so on and so forth. My notifications, of course, are just that. It's just notifications of that time off has been requested, or that it's been approved, or that your own time has been approved. And you can always delete, mark as read, mark as unread, and forward. So you can really customize your notifications as you see fit. And if at any point you wish to filter, you can come over here to this little funnel, and you can always filter by date or read or unread. And you'll see this a lot in various menus. You'll see these little filters. You can also manage views over here, or refresh the page. You can sort. And one more thing before I show you, actually, I'll just show you after this, but my checklists, this is the third tab on the notification bell. So most of you, I shouldn't assume, but some of you probably have had a chance to go in and already complete the Welcome to UKG Ready checklist. So thank you to those of you who have, but after this call or later this week, just take a few minutes. It takes like 5 minutes. It's really quick. This will just have you go into your personal information and verify that all of the items that are entered are correct, and you have the ability to make changes. And just to note, this progress bar, when you're completing this, when it gets to 75%, it means you're done. I know it's not like it really kind of eats away at my OCD, but the other remaining 25% is actually just GenRI approving your submission. So when you get to 75%, you're done. You can go ahead and exit the checklist. So periodically, we may assign various items, and you'll see that in this section here through checklists. If I go back home and I'm looking at my employees, if I look at my employee information, now I know we only have one test employee pulled up, but if you had a whole slew of employees, each menu that looks just like this, with this kind of Excel looking section, this is a way for you to search, and you can filter by name, username, their status. Like this exclamation equal sign just means that we're going to disregard anyone that's terminated, so it filters them out. You can always search any of these type of search criterias. And the cool part is you can always filter, but you can always come up here to these three dots, add or remove columns, and you have a whole bunch of options that you can choose from. So like if I wanted, I don't know, their birthday, add it, and you can always move it up or down, apply, come over here, and it's right there. And let's just say, I like this view. I want this to be my default view every single time. I'm going to click this three dots again, and I'm going to save that view as, and I'm going to click my default, and I'm going to save and run it. And that way, each and every time that column will come up, and you can always change the view or add or remove columns. Like if I no longer wanted the birthday, you just remove it and apply. Another cool thing too here is when you're in your employee list, you have a couple options. So you can always view the employee info directly from here. And if you click this little person with a link to it, you can view their timesheet and their requests for time off. Any questions on those? Okay, let's go ahead and dive into time and attendance. So this will show you, I'm going to go, let's see, over here to my team timekeeping, excuse me. And I'm going to view all current timesheets. So as we know, on a per pay period basis, your folks are hourly and they're going to be entering time in, time out, any breaks or any exception time. And just to show you what this looks like, if we go over here to my one test employee, I can edit their timesheet, I can preview the timesheet, and I can view the employee information all right here. So if I just look at employee or edit timesheet, this is what it will look like. So, I mean, pretty standard if you ask me, but it's just a little bit of a different view. But this will just show you per pay period. So just the first thing is to make sure that you're on the right pay period, and you can toggle back and forth using the arrows. We've got some sample time entered here. So you can see, it'll show you the day, the entries, the totals for both shift and day. It'll show you the date, which should always match the same over here. The time off is going to be any exception time. And if you want to, and as you're going through, you can always browse the list and you'll be greeted with all of the different exception times. And then department over here, sometimes called cost center. This is where you can change those, and the employees will have the ability to do this on their own. But if it's missed or if you're running into any issues, you can always change it. So what I want to show you is if you click browse, it's going to pull up all those cost centers. So there's, and I know that, let me show you on the employee side, because I think the manager side is limited for the tester, but let me just show you. It's today, the 30th. So, I got to clock in. I think it's not letting me because we've already manipulated it, but I'll just come back here and show you just if I click one of the days. But what you want to be aware of is that the cost centers are broken out not only by location, but also by job classification. So there's going to be like 300 or something cost centers because it's all broken out. So if you're going through, you can either use like starts with, or I personally enjoy like, because it picks up the most, I think. So, let's say I worked as, I don't know, a regional maintenance. Hit enter, and then I'm going to see different ones with regional maintenance. And so I'm just going to select that one I want, and it just changed it up here. So, you can go through those. Also over here to the right, you'll see a little box for notes. You can always add in any notes. If there were issues with timesheets, we've also educated the non-managerial team members on how to do that in case there's any like missed punches or things they can add notes in. Any questions on basic time entry? Okay, so as a new process, this is super cool. And at least in my opinion, I love this, but most of you are familiar with entering in your supplemental earnings on the same page as your timesheets, right? So you're just going to be adding like on a Saturday or Sunday, renewal bonuses, leasing bonuses, and so forth. Well, what's new is that we have a separate tab called supplemental earnings. And this is where you can add those earnings in completely separate. So there's going to be no more room for, hey, I accidentally put the earning on a day they actually worked, and now I don't know how to get the time back. So this is totally separate, but this is where you can add those supplemental earnings. So we've got some examples in here. We've got the operating bonus tied to the location, and the amount goes here. And then you'll see down below is mileage, the location, and the quantity. So one thing to note, when you get to mileage, we're pretty much used to entering in probably the total, the amount, right, into Swipe Clock, like the total amount they want or that they are getting reimbursed. this is where you're going to be entering just the number of miles, and then the system will calculate for you. You can view all of the different, what they call counters, which are going to be, mileage, leasing bonus, on-call, operating, renewal. Those are probably the most common ones that you're going to be using. You can enter those, and it will tell you, if you enter a $sign, you'll enter an amount. And if you see a number sign, you'll enter a quantity. One other really important feature, most of you will be sending me or are currently sending me those supporting documents, right? Like each pay period, you send me all of your folks' mileage, your emergency maintenance logs. So moving forward in UKG, we're going to have you go up here to this paperclip and you just attach them right in here. And you can upload up to 5. And remember, this is per employee. So some folks may have, 3 or 4, some may have all 5, some may have 1 or none, but you can do 5 per employee. Are there any questions on supplemental earnings? Are you guys excited for this? I am. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the calc summary. So if I go over here to calc summary, this is going to show me totals for the pay period. So I can see for this employee, this test hourly employee, I see 16.92 hours worked, 26 time off hours, and that could be anything, right? So bereavement, holiday, time off, so forth. And then any unpaid hours. And this will show me kind of another breakdown, time off and hours worked down here. And you can see regular, you can see mileage, you can see all of that down here. But this is just a really good tool to look at total hours here. Okay. Next, I want to show what happens when you have an employee who has a missing punch. So I'm looking at the employee view over here, and I'm going to go back to their homepage. And I come down here to the clock, and I see this timesheet errors, current 3 missing punches. Does everyone see that? Okay. So what this is saying is that the system, UKG, is signifying that there are, or notifying, I should say, there are 3 missing punches in that pay period. So as an employee, I'm going to click this, and it's going to identify which days I have missing punches, which is super cool. So we can see on the 21st, I've clocked in at 8:05, but I have no clock out. So the employee can just go ahead and put in 5P. And they'll type in a comment, which is required, missing punch. Wednesday the 22nd, I worked 8 to noon, and then I worked again, and I clocked out at 5, but I forgot to clock back in from lunch. So I'm going to put 1 p.m. There's my note. On Thursday the 23rd, we have no clock in, but a clock out. So I'm going to put 8:30. And then what you're going to do, you'll see this submit change. So I'm going to go ahead and click submit changes. And again, this is the employee side, right? So when you see this and you see the employee it still shows 3 missing punches. If I go over to my employee section, manager section, and I click my notification bell, I see a whole bunch of timesheet change requests. And I'm going to see, okay, what happened? So down here, I show on this date, they worked till 5. That's the punch that they forgot. That's the punch they put in. You can view the comment. You can open the timesheet if you want to go actually into it. But if everything looks good and you reviewed it, you can go ahead and approve it. There's a section for comment. It's not required, but if you'd like to, you can say approved by me. Approved. Okay. Sometimes we get these hiccups. Let me try one more because this has happened just from a testing perspective, but let's try this one. Okay, that one worked. So I'm going to go back to the employee section, and I'm going to go ahead and just refresh my page. And you see that 3, oh, well, now there's 4. Well, let's go back up here to the top. Notifications. Timesheet change request approved. It'll show you on 11/22 that punch was approved, right? So if I go to my timesheet as an employee, there's my punch. Now, I think this is something that our account rep is working through, because you can clearly see it almost made a room for another punch versus just capturing that 1 o'clock. As we work through that, this will get cleaned up and it'll just be a smooth 8 to noon, 1 to 5. But does everyone kind of see the workflow process behind that? Okay. All right.
So Garrett, so let's just say that they, that they correct one of the punches, but there's still some errors. Do we have the ability to go in and manually fix their time, or no?
No, that's a great point. Yeah, let me show you. I'm on the manager section and I'm going to go in, and beside that, like, let's just say they verbally tell you, we prefer that all of these are done using all of these HR actions. But if they just verbally tell you, or to put it in an email, you'll go to their timesheet, edit it, and come down here. And this Tuesday, let's just say they work till 5, pop it in. And there's no time off because it's just hours worked, right? So then we're just going to save it. And you can do it that way.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet. And then also a couple other things too. So you'll see up here, save, submit, and change requests. These are really important. And also clock in, clock out, change cost center. So I just want to go through each one real quick. So change cost center, this is if they worked at a different location. And again, the set to default is their home location, but they can always select from the list, come over here and browse the list and choose it that way. Just make sure that they're not only choosing the right community, but also the right job code. And then save will obviously save the timesheet. Submit is going to be at the end of the pay period when you're submitting to payroll. And actually, from an employee perspective, it'll come to you first for approval. So when you submit it, it's going to go to you, and then you'll approve it, and it will go to HR.
So Garrett, I have a leasing agent that I split with my sister property, and he's on my payroll. So she just kind of tells me, but it's auto set to be split between he's like automatically set in our current system to be split between the properties. It's like an auto setting. Is that something we're able to do so we don't have to manually do it each time, or no?
Yeah, it's still set up that way, Janelle.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And
He's under the Columbia split versus Forest Village or just Woodlake.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
I see. Okay. And if, as we go through this first payroll, we'll take a closer look and just make sure everything is good to go. But one more thing I want to show you before I move on is this change request. So, and again, I'm in the employee tab, right? So as an employee, let's say, like, where's the day? I've got PTO entered for Saturday. And actually, one second, I'm going to put because that was an example on my last call I want to use. So I'm going to delete that for a second, save it, and then I'm going to refresh. If I come up here as an employee and I click change request, they're going to be greeted with this list of different change types. So you can see the employee can also add in a missing punch this way. If you see time entry, this is a whole day. It's not just one punch in or one punch out. It's a whole day. I mean, hopefully we don't have employees missing punches for entire days, but there is the capability of doing that. You can cancel time off. You can modify a punch in or punch out. So this is essentially if there's already one in there and you want to change it, and then modifying time off. So like, for example, if I want to use the Friday the 1st, and let's say I only need a half day, I put in 8 hours, but I really only need that half day, I'd come in here, choose modify time off. I think, sorry, what date was that? That was the 1st. Click it, and then come down here and click the arrow, and then you can modify exactly what you need. They could also just do 4 if they want to just make it 4 hours and then, punch in, punch out for the time they've actually worked. They can do it that way, and then submit the change. And then just like with timesheets, you're going to get that approval or notification, and then you can come in and review it and approve it that way. So there's a couple ways of doing it. So questions on that? Okay. All right. So let's go back here to the manager portal, and I want to show you time off, because the method of doing this, there's a couple different ways. It'll all take you to the same thing, but there's a couple ways that you can do this. And again, I'm focusing more for your standpoint as well as your employees. But this, when you see my accrual balances, this is for you. This is you, the manager. So if I'm going to be requesting time off, I'm going on a week trip to Bermuda, I'm going to come in and the default will be request PTO. But let's say I had an unexpected death in the family. Well, how do I enter bereavement? If you click this list, you can request other time off and then choose the type. And then you have all these options to choose from. So that's one way of doing it. And just as your employees, the approvals will come to you, your approvals will go, or your requests will go to your manager for approval. So it's the same idea. What I want to show you as well is, from the employee standpoint, and I use this example over here. I need to delete Monday to show you how to do this. So one moment. Okay, let's say I have an employee who's taking Friday and Monday off. And they come in and they're going to say change request. And I want to actually, let's go back home. Sorry, let's go back home and let's do it this way. Let's go to request PTO, and I want multiple days, right? Because I want Friday and Monday. And I come in and I want, actually, let's do the 24th, and then we want Monday off, the 27th. And I'm going to say, visiting grandma in Vegas. And we'll submit that request. You're going to see this error. So the error says that the 25th and the 26th are blockout days. What that means is that the system is flagging that it's a weekend. And if you submit anyway, it will account for those 2 days, and it will put in 16 hours between Saturday and Sunday. So the system isn't intelligent enough to know that your employee may or may not be scheduled Saturday and Sunday. So if you get this flag, you cancel, and what you'll want to do is just X out of these, and it will open back up that request type, and you can just do full days for each of those. But again, if you have an employee who's working on a Saturday, it could be that they are truly taking time off. So if I were to put in a full day on the 25th, let's just say, I guess it would be partial, because I'm sure most folks don't work 8 hours Saturday, but let's just say they do. Submit, and it's still going to give you that error. So no matter what, if they are scheduled on a weekend and they're taking time off for that, it's still going to give you that. It just want you to know that that's what that means. But you can always submit anyway, and it will push it through. Questions on that? Okay. All right, so we have talked about time off requests. We've talked about timesheets, missing punches, adding notes, changing departments, all of that, and supplemental earnings, as well as the approvals workflow. The kind of other items that I want to show you are back on the homepage. So I'm going to go back to my manager view. And I want to validate some personal information. And again, you can do this through that checklist that you get when you first log in. But at any point in time, you can come up here to, my information, and go to update my information. And you're going to see what's called HR actions. This is the right spot. These are all of the available actions that you can do on your own as a self-service tool. So you'll see certifications right here. You can always upload any new certifications or supporting documents. You can upload or update your phone number or change your email. You can reprocess a voluntary self-identification form. You can update your address, update your contacts, and this includes emergency, dependent, and/or beneficiaries. So all of that's housed in one place. You can update your direct deposit. You can do a name change or marital status change. And then any other arbitrary documents that you find relevant, you can upload those. And how to do that, if I just go up to, let's do phone number, and I click start, and you'll see some instructions on the top left just to guide you through what's needed. You can just complete that. And once you get through, when you continue, it will come to HR directly, and we'll just review it and make sure there's no, errors or anything looks funky. And then we'll go ahead and approve it, and it will be applied to your profile. Now I will show you one more thing. If I go back, you'll see how the opened tab has 1. Well, I started it, right? But I didn't submit it. So it knows that this is opened, and it would show submitted here, and the status would change to, I believe, submitted. And then when HR is approved it, I think it says processed. So you kind of know where it's at. But let's just say, hey, I totally hit start by accident, and go over here to actions, and I can edit. And I believe maybe this is not the view. 1 second. You should have the ability. Okay, in this instance, it looks like you can't delete on your own. So HR will have to take care of that for you. So if ever you've started one in error, just let us know and we can get that taken care of. I mean, if you opened it and didn't submit it, it can hang out there. But if you just want it gone, we can remove it. Going back home, I want to show you how you can access other personal information. So we showed you, address, phone number, email, but let's talk about your W-4 withholdings. So I can go to my pay, or again, I looked up withholding earlier, but if I also go in to my information and I want to update my information, I can do that from down here as well, direct deposit. In terms of your tax forms, there's 2 ways to get to it. You go to my pay, you can update tax withholding here, or you can search it, or you can come to your menu and go to my info, my pay, forms, withholding. And I know this is a bit of a journey, but just another way to access it. So just to show you this screen, I know it says no data to display, and that's perfectly fine because likely nothing has been uploaded. But if you're wanting to make a change to your W-4, all you'll need to do is click over here on the far right and add new. And I show federal in 2 states. So if I just want to make changes to Fed, I would click add, and then you'll see the digital W-4. And you can change your tax filing status. You can add additional withholding, anything you want. You can save it and submit it. And submit it's going to come directly to HR. And then you can always download the PDF if you want to keep a copy for your records. Of course, this will stay on file in UKG, but just something to show you. And then pay statements, you can always view that right here to go. Actually, I think I'm gonna add that because I don't see that in here. But you can always come down to my pay, and once we have a payroll, it will be populated. But I'll go ahead and add my pay statements to this section. That way you'll see that link. And then you can always do your W-2s and 1095Cs as of 2025. So a little bit of a ways to go, but yeah, so that's how you would view those. I know we're creeping up on 4 o'clock, so I have essentially covered everything that I would like to. Jen, can you think of anything that maybe we have missed or that we need to talk about?
I'm about to send the short name, which if you're going to download the app is something you're going to need. And it says name, but it's a bunch of numbers, which makes no sense. The big thing I would just say is focusing on pushing back on your employees to be responsible for and accountable for their own time card. That's this system is giving them the ability to actually make the corrections without having to tell you guys. So I would keep pushing back. And like Garrett said, we're going to keep doing some education in the system. There's so much to the system we haven't even touched yet. But that would probably be all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. And this feature I think is super cool because it not only highlights it for them, but it will identify exactly what's needed. So there's no guesswork. any questions? I know we've covered quite a bit. So are there any questions, going from login all the way to kind of what we've just talked about? Okay. Well, if you think of anything, because I know I just threw a lot at you, but if you think of anything as you're going in and logging in, and even just take a minute and just like go click around, like just go explore and see what you find. And if you come across anything weird or something you don't understand, we are always happy to help answer those and work through them if needed. Again, we will be hosting a catch-up meeting next week on Thursday, the 7th of December. We'll do a 10 a.m. for I think managers week scheduled first. Let me look. Yeah, managers at 10, and then we'll schedule the associates at 3. And again, these are just catch up. So if you want to sit in again, you can, or if your folks haven't had a chance to sit in, please make every effort to do that. Because we do go live on the 16th. So we just want to make sure you're geared up and you have every tool that you need to succeed in UKG. Again, we're so excited. This is going to be awesome. And then just make sure you download that app, like Jen said, and get entered for a chance to win some awesome swag. I love swag. I love merch of any kind. So, yeah. So if you have any questions, just keep us updated. But you guys, thank you for joining today. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Garrett.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.